right? For a lot of our partners, what we ended up seeing for these 350s, 700s, and 450s was about a 40%, 50% sell-through rate, which was significantly below what we anticipated, right? Like it wasn't even that many bots hitting. It wasn't even that many humans trying to hit the product, which was really surprising to us just across the board because we thought, hey, this is a finality of the last Yeezy release. It's a collector's item.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Back with another episode of Insider Ties on Arch. And as you know, I love to go in and bring you content that is going to be a lot more challenging in the sneaker industry, as opposed to just giving you a, hey, here's a dope sneaker video and talk about what we're wearing, which doesn't do anything to help anybody. So we're going to speak with Jordan Shamir. I want to make sure I said that right. Did I say Jordan Shamir?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. And he's with YoFi. And YoFi, as I understand it, and I never want to get things wrong because he's going to be able to introduce himself and talk about this. YoFi is the company that protects us out there in the sneaker world and in the ticket world, or almost any world where you have a product that people will be attempting to bot. And what do we mean by botting? Botting is the process of sending out spiders and programs which will infiltrate the system and snatch all of the product that becomes available online in a digital release. He's created a program and a company that helps to protect us in those instances and prevent that from happening. And I want to make sure I'm right about that. But I think it's a really good and interesting conversation to have, specifically with the drops of the Yeezys pending. And I wrote an article recently where I pulled some data, and the data showed consistently that adidas is performing as they were performing while they had Kanye. The brand itself is still maintaining that same level of sales and third party. However, Yeezy, which you would have thought would have exploded in resale value because we know there's only a limited amount of product that's going to be dropped in all of these different kind of releases that Adidas is doing, we would have thought that the value of Yeezy would be increasing already. And it's not, it's decreasing. So by the data, you're talking about a significant drop-off in pricing for Yeezy product, which leads me to a completely different discussion, but I want to make sure Jordan gets to introduce himself, give you his handles, and then we're going to climb into this discussion and try and, have a good 30 minutes or so talking and digging in. But please introduce yourself, give everyone your socials, where they can find you, the name of the company, and what you're working on.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chris. Been a long time fan, and it's nice to be on video with you. I know we've DM'd a whole bunch, so it's nice to put a face to the name. But so I'm Jordan Shamir. I'm one of the co-founders of YoFi AI, and one of the things where we started off with our OG name was BotNot. So we focus very much on these exclusive releases and preventing essentially bots from taking advantage and ruining the consumer experience. But one of the things we ended up seeing is that, unfortunately, everything that's being digitally consumed is skewed because everyone has multiple digital identities. So whether it's intentional, you think about like bots, resellers, serial coded users, etc., or unintentional, right? How many email addresses do you have, Chris, that you use to get 10, 15% off from brands that you already bought from, right? So something that's universal. And so what we ended up seeing is, with all this data skewed, it's how many of my accounts are unique? How's my marketing campaigns actually doing? How do I forecast based off my number of customers? How do I trust that fundamental data set that we had? So what we did is we built an identity platform that is vertically integrated. So what we're looking at is customer intentionality, or these duplicate profiles, but more or less like think about putting a massive filter across your entire business to basically say, hey, these are good consumers, right? These are the ones we should build the business for, versus these are programmatic, these are bots, these are resellers, these are people trying to take advantage. Not necessarily a bad thing, but how do we provide a really clean data set so we're building for our real consumer? So we avoid these massive inventory gluts, so we can prioritize people for exclusive products, so we can really streamline our operations and say, these are the customers we're building for. So what we do, and our company name is YoFi AI, yofi.ai. And the nice thing is we've been able to be exposed to some awesome companies that we work with, and we have some really amazing partners that, for us, it's really fun as sneakerheads to basically be able to help solve a problem that was plaguing us for a very long time. And our background, we do come from Nike, Adidas, and different from previous lives. So we know the problem very intimately, and we're really excited to be helping solve it.
I think that's one of the most important aspects, because you're not simply just in sneakers. It's good for us to be able to talk about sneakers, but you are helping brands all over the place. I'm scrolling through your site and I'm looking at work with Kohl's, obviously with Stash, that makes sense. Clavio.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
guys have all of these different case studies that are on the site, but we're going to float back into the sneaker side of things because as we know, the majority of what happens in sneaker releases is that when the sneaker drops, the bots run in, they snatch all the product, and then they go out and resell it, and it drives these prices up.
Yeah.
However, over the last few years, I've been documenting and doing all of this data, all of these data dives, and I found that resale is trailing off anyway. And one of the things that I wanted to speak with you about is the most recent Adidas kind of, with them liquidating Yeezy.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had to work so much on preventing bots from snatching all of that product? Or because I've been saying over and over that Yeezy 350s, 550s, utilities, I've been saying for a long time that product really isn't being resold anymore. It doesn't have the same value that it has. And for me to say that, I'm pulling data from third-party marketplaces. But it's better for me to say that and have backup from a company like YoFi, where you can say with certainty that, hey, Chris, I don't think that's happening as much anymore. And I don't know if it's true, but I just want you to
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah, I think with Yeezys, like I think there's like 18 releases, 12 or 18, depending on like, what the allocation per store is. But we anticipated a big release, right? Like heavily botted, final Yeezy release, kind of a collector's item, right? It's the liquidation. It's done. It's over. And typically when you have a finality to it, it kind of increases the price just given, the scarcity of the product. But through a lot of our partners this week, they released, sorry, let's see, the 450s, 700s, and 350s. And we anticipated the 700s to sell out instantly. But even with our bot prevention for this, like we didn't see that much demand. We prevented a lot of bots, but it wasn't selling out the whole product. And even when they turned off bot detection after, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because they're like, hey, we're not getting the volume we need. Oh, and by the way, Adidas didn't give out little allocations. They gave out massive allocations to their partners because they're trying to get as
Really?
much money as they can. So you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, right, of allocations depending on the store size. And so we didn't see the demand or the volume go that much, where even after they turned off bot detection, it's not like the sell-through rate, immediately everything sold out, right? For a lot of our partners, what we ended up seeing for these 350s, 700s, and 450s was about a 40%, 50% sell-through rate, which was significantly below what we anticipated, right? Like it wasn't even that many bots hitting. It wasn't even that many humans trying to hit the product, which was really surprising to us just across the board because we thought, hey, this is a finality of the last Yeezy release. It's a collector's item.
And I know I'm on StockX now and I'm going over here and
Yeah.
I'm looking at the most popular product you know, in their top like 100 shoes. And I get a
Yeah.
report from them as well. And right now, the shoes that are still like top 10, you only have two Yeezy shoes, and they are both the slides. Is that what you're seeing? The ones that are kind of being botted, those are the
Yeah.
slides.
Yeah, I think the slides are releasing. So this week, I think what's coming out is the foam runners. I know the foam runners are quite popular. And then I think the slides are releasing the following week or maybe the week after. But yeah, that's what we've ended up seeing is essentially Yeezy V2 is kind of like the upper echelon with the foam runner and the slides is the most highly demanded. So I think the tough thing though is it depends on the allocation. Adidas wanted to give as much product away as they could. They have an inventory glut that they can't sell. So I think it depends because, like you said, it's very different than 24 and 18 months ago, where it doesn't matter what I put up. If it had the word dunk, if it had the word Yeezy, if it had whatever, it would be sold out instantaneously. That's changed, right? A lot of products that would have sold out are not selling out now. So this fundamental business aspect that a lot of these exclusive sneaker stores are running is fundamentally changed. I don't have products that automatically sell out. I have to actually cultivate that relationship with my consumer. I actually have to go a little bit deeper to go make these sales, right? So this is the complicated thing with Yeezy is, hey, if I don't sell out during this hype and during this release, what do I do if I have 150 pairs of inventory, for these specific products? How do I sell those?
Yeah. So what do you think is behind? Now, I for one
Mhm.
realize that This is not 2 years ago. There's not any
Yeah.
stimulus money, of course. But I relate Yeezy,
Hmm.
and where a lot of people say, oh, Yeezy's an extremely powerful and strong brand. I always said it wasn't. I
Yeah.
said that Yeezy's value was in what it could generate revenue in.
Yeah.
And when it's something like that, it doesn't have any brand cash or cachet. And people are not buying and collecting it for memories. There's no memory attached to the Yeezy brand for a consumer who's a collector. There's simply a monetary value. When it's only a monetary value, once the time passes for that product to be something that you can sell and turn a profit, in my
Yeah.
opinion, the value of it decreases and it does not go back up. So I'm saying that you can buy these Yeezys, which are going to be in abundance and
Hmm.
around, because they're, as you said, they're not selling out as quickly, except for the foam runners and the slides, which I think has more to do with the fact that the price is $100
Yeah.
because they're so cheap.
Hannibal.
So
Yeah.
if they're, I'm saying that it's not selling out because it never had any brand integrity and value. It simply had monetary value. Do you think, because I have a chart over here that shows that it went from 200 and the average sold price for Yeezy, when you do a search on eBay, the average sold price is $202 for the last year,
Yeah.
right? Before, the average sold price was, one second, 211.25. So you're talking about almost a $10 decrease in value when it has become the most difficult to acquire.
Yeah.
And if it's diminishing in this way, obviously you're going to have those outliers of the slides that are much cheaper that's driving down the price. But people aren't necessarily buying shoes that cost over $200 right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch gears here. And
Yeah.
like I said, I'm asking you if I'm wrong when I say that Yeezy doesn't have any brand value. Yeezy only has monetary value, which is why it's not selling out now. Am I wrong in saying that?
Well, I think you have to think about like who is Yeezy, right? Who was the brand, right? And now the brand and the company aren't associated with one another, right? Like essentially you have the staple head, the creator of the brand is no longer evangelizing the brand, right? It's kind of being pushed out through the back door, right? So you don't have these amazing, I remember going to these this like tour, right? Like before all the shoe and all that was huge, but like basically the figurehead doesn't exist anymore. So now it's just a shoe, right? Like to your point, it's not a brand. I mean, I associate, unfortunately, I think now a lot of people are thinking as this Yeezy release is more associated with Adidas more so than Yeezy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that
And so I
does.
think just kind of even that shift of like even the marketing momentum of who's pushing it out, because you could go argue and say like Yeezy might be the most successful celebrity brand ever, right?
True.
And with that fundamental change, Yeezy's not supporting it. He's not pushing it out, right? I don't see any announcements. I don't see him wearing it, right? He's doing his own thing. He's always done his own thing, but
And this
like
this isn't on yo this isn't a YoFi question as much as it is me asking you just what your opinion is in this matter. So if I
yeah,
say that it was never a brand, I say that a brand maintains its value long after the person who's associated with it is gone,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeezy's too young for me to know if that is true.
yeah,
So if I make that statement, then I'm kind of too early in the process of trying to make a statement that it's not a brand, that it was
yeah,
only a person. But when we look at synecdoche and metonymy, these words that tie the brand to the person and the person to the brand
yeah.
is the person. Um, do you feel like if the people who are buying this stuff, if they hold it for a year or two, do you think that value is going to go back up for those people who are attempting to buy and resell Yeezy?
I think I think slowly over time it may go up, right? Just because you're talking about a finality. They're not making anymore. So like if you were to get a couple pairs of shoes, stash them in the closet, right? Because people loved the easy releases. They liked wearing them, right? So do I think in 2, 3 years people might pay a premium to be able to get one of their favorite pairs to be able to wear because they love the comfort of them? yeah, I could see it going up, but I don't see it going up to a ridiculous amount, like a huge uplift. I think people actually just genuinely like the shoes. So I think just out of that notion, people would like to pay for them. Yeah.
Now I'm going to break away from that
Yeah.
questioning because I did some research,
Yeah.
right? Everything with me is always research. I'm
Yeah. I
always
like
going to
it.
go and
I like
dig.
all the data. Yeah.
I don't think people were wearing them. I've
Yeah.
never seen people. I see maybe if I go through a day and I'm out and I'm about and I'm doing something, I hardly ever saw Yeezys on foot. So
Yeah.
I went and I made up a formula.
Hmm.
And I found in this formula that 39%, 33% of Yeezys bought went directly into the resale channel. That means one in every three shoes.
Yeah.
That means no one's wearing this stuff, as far as I thought. Now,
Yeah.
I may be a little bit wrong, but all right, let's forget that. Let's switch gears. I want to go back to YoFi because
Yeah.
I think YoFi is an interesting business. How did the company get started? Now, I know you said it was botnet at first. How did the company get started?
Yeah, the company got started. My two other co-founders, Alex and Andrew, they actually worked at Nike together. And they worked in Nike China. In Nike China, if you think bots are bad in the US and North America, China is a whole different world, right? It's wild. And what they were kind of doing is they were just investigating, how do we stop this, right? Like, how do we stop, botting? How do we stop this automation? And, one of the things that they kept kind of banging their heads on is like, hey guys, like, we're having millions of profiles created, but we're going to celebrate, hey, we have 2 million new active users, right? Just making something up. And what we ended up seeing is they're like, okay, this is a weird issue. They went to separate jobs, they went to Gucci, Adidas, Apple. And what they ended up seeing is the same issue of basically people using multiple identities to take advantage of customer friendly policies, whether it's free returns, 10% off, exclusive releases,
Right.
etc. Right. And so what we realized is that people are using multiple digital identities to take advantage of brands and impact the profitability. But the biggest kind of aha moment for us was understanding that it skews all the data downstream. So I'll give one example of one of the things we're working with our customers is abandoned carts. So I think like you've seen this with bots, they abandon cart, they do cart testing, they're constantly going. So if one of our customers are like, holy crap, we have an awful abandoned cart strategy. And we're like, okay, well, maybe not, right? And so we were able to kind of put a look at it and basically said, well, 80% of your add to carts are bad actors. The 20% that are legitimate good consumers, you have a great conversion, but you're letting this 80% skew your data, skew kind of what you're doing, right? Or even inventory forecasting, right? Like there's a big reason why dunks were so heavily popular is because bots were trying to get dunks. So, hey, people are trying to buy it. That must mean human demand. So, kind of this age that we're moving into, we have to kind of apply a filter, apply a notion of thinking of like who is legitimate versus who is programmatic. So, really getting more into this customer intentionality to say, like, to your point of Yeezys, let's say a third are actually being just botted to be resold. Well, then should I make a little less inventory, right? Is that what my consumers genuinely want? Or is that what people are buying to go flip, right? And finding that really important balance from a data integrity perspective is critical. Yeah.
The I'm sure those people that I have a few kind of loyal people that'll come in and listen to these podcasts. It's not a
Yeah.
huge audience. I wish it was much bigger, but people who are a little bit more serious about the sneaker industry, you just don't
Yeah.
have that many just flooding to my website and reading everything. They
Yeah.
tend to go to the more high profile websites that are showing you what's releasing and stuff like that. But for those people who are interested in what you're doing, can you tell me what your startup cost were for YoFi?
Yeah. So what we did is we ended up raising money last year, like
Mm-hmm.
last February. So we raised, and this is all we've raised so far, was we raised $1.5 million. And
That's it.
yeah, we raised 1.5 million. And so far we're working with about 30 retailers across the globe. We're actively growing, right? Kind of startup pains. We're
Yeah,
figuring it out.
yeah, startup
Even the
pains,
change
but
from bots
it's
to
really smart to only take that million as opposed to taking some really bloated
oh boy,
amount.
yeah. We are so lucky we raised like, and look, 1.5 million sounds like a lot of money, but to starting a business, it's
The
not a ton,
burn rate is ridiculous, I'm sure.
right? Yeah, but we were lucky because we even raised during the heyday of startups, which everyone's read about. Like now the valuations are falling, like
Yeah.
companies are under. And I think we were really fortunate that we were more conservative, just because we didn't want to put ourselves in a position where we had to go down round or devalue or let go of employees just because of market conditions, right? So we've always just tried to stay focused. And, it's, we have this corny term of like, we rather be the zipper than the pants. And, how can we be the zipper? How can we be the data cleaning? How can
Yeah,
we do stuff that no one wants to do, right? And that's the cool thing where we've always felt confident is just we know no one's really focusing on digital identity from a data perspective.
a little bit off topic, but not really. I'm trying to remember the name of the company last week that was discovered to have falsified users.
Oh, was
And
this JP Morgan? JP Morgan bottom or
I think
something?
JP Morgan bought the company and
Yeah.
they had falsified hundreds of millions of users. They had used a bot farm. Could your technology at YoFi have caught the fact that that company was using a bot farm?
Yeah. So like one of our integrations is with Klaviyo, right? Klaviyo is a big CRM, CDP system, right? So this is where all the customer data is saved. And one of the things that might sound oxymoronic, but we find these patterns of randomness, right? So let's go back to a sneaker release. Like what we'll see is people will create hundreds of different profiles, all created within the same minute with a slight variation, right? Jordan 1, Jordan 2, Jordan 3, but it's all saying, hey, it's from, Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just making it up. And so what we do is basically in real time, we look at all these profiles and we say, hey, is this the same individual, right? Like, even though from the small notion of like 1, 2, and 3, and 4, there are some small nuanced differences, but we're creating hundreds of different signals to basically say, hey, you know what, Jordan 1, Jordan 2, Jordan 3, that's actually the same profile, right? Let's consolidate them. Hey, are they actually created by bots? Let's actually just remove them. So, like, one of the things we do for a lot of our customers in Klaviyo is we just actually remove and suppress bad profiles. One, it decreases their cost by 50, 60%, but also they can understand who their customer is, right? Like, the thing that a lot of sneaker stores or a lot of, let's just say, exclusive brand streetwear, they're going through a metamorphosis right now where their business was the glory days were 18 months 2 years ago, where it doesn't matter what they put online, it's sold.
Yeah.
Now they have to figure out, how do I sell inline, New Balance? How do I sell socks, t-shirt, headbands? How do I create a relationship with my customer to come back to go buy at my brand, whether it's Stash compared to going to Nike.com, right? How do I do that? Right. And that's the biggest challenge. And candidly, we see some brands really outperforming their peers because they've invested in community. It's always human, it's always community based. And I think, unfortunately, with like the wild west of bots, they didn't care because they sold it out anyways. Even stuff
Right.
no one wanted, they sold out, right? And
Yeah.
so now we need to transform back to, how are we building a community? And that's a challenge for a lot of brands.
That's a huge challenge. I think it's really important that you can cross kind of categories of who you can assist. I think that's
Mhm.
going to be extremely valuable for your company and what you're moving towards. In the sneaker world, I think what we've come to realize as far as resale is concerned is that there the resale market has kind of declined.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think it's going to bounce back because it's been trending down for years. COVID
Yeah.
was simply a massive disruption that kind of drove the market back up momentarily and invited all of these people in. So now we're at a point where we need to understand exactly what's happening with all of these websites and how do we sell this product that's in the stores, that's inline product versus something that's, limited. Does the YoFi information, does it, can it be utilized? And now I'm trying to scale it down and ask you this question.
Yeah.
Is it potentially something that Shopify accounts, smaller accounts, WordPress, WooCommerce accounts, is there an integration into WooCommerce and Shopify for smaller people who are trying to learn more about the customers that they have or the customers they're trying to attain?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're a Shopify app. That's where we started off with.
Yeah,
So we started off in Shopify because Shopify is the most botted platform, right? So the beauty with Shopify is like it's good and bad, right? I think Shopify is one of the greatest companies, right? They've
yeah,
automated and made things so much easier, but it's a universal platform. And so what a lot of bots do is they do keyword searching. Hey, Yeezy. So I don't care if I buy from a store in LA, store in Oklahoma, store in New York, whatever. It doesn't make a difference. I'm doing a universal search, right? Because you're just searching Shopify, right? So yeah, we really started off working with a lot of these SMBs and smaller businesses because that's what's meaningful to us, right? Like we love working with big brands, right? So I won't say that, but like especially these mom and pop, right? They're entrepreneurs, right? Like
Yeah,
we want to help make their life easier. And if you think about like a lot of these smaller brands, what's the biggest essentially handicap for them is time. And so if
right.
we can reduce time via automating through flagging, making things more efficient for things they can't do, hopefully they can scale and get the business to a level where they can hire additional people to help take them to that next stage in growth. And like, so we love working with these smaller stores because they're entrepreneurs just like us. So we understand. We want to make their lives easier. We want them to help accomplish their dreams and we want them to be as successful as they possibly can be. That's at the heart of what we do.
And I really think, and instead of continuing forward, I know we could go back and dive deeper into the
Yeah.
Adidas data,
Yeah.
but I think you sent me a note the other day in
Yeah.
regard to the decline in resale, and I wrote this article, and you explained in that note that there weren't that many bots out there. And I was like, it makes sense. But I don't know if you can find that response that you wrote because we're going to get ready to wrap this up.
Yeah.
And
Let's see if I can
I
find.
think a lot of people, I think it was on LinkedIn, we were writing back and forth and you
Oh
wrote
yeah.
a note and
Mhm.
you explained that there just aren't that many people out there attempting to bot these sneakers. And
Yeah.
can you read that? And what I want you to do is to read that quote because I love to kind of end this on that quote. And I want you to once again give everybody your socials for the small businesses who could potentially work with you, give them the website information and the things that you could potentially be expanding to in the future. And
Mhm.
we're going to wrap this up and that'll be it. But I really want you to read that quote that you sent me. And I was like, oh, wow. But
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I'll read it. I just pulled it up. We worked with many of our partners who enabled YoFi bot protection in anticipation of the Yeezy V3 release today. However, we were surprised by the noticeably low turnout from customers and bots alike, which left a large surplus inventory. For over 10 plus thousand units, we saw sell-through rate of on most products was around 40% for the first hour of release. Even after the bot prevention expired, we didn't see an immediate uptick in purchases, with many pairs still sitting across all of our partners. This is an interesting benchmark for the future Yeezy releases, especially with the upcoming releases of the widely popular V2s and foam runners, which are this week, which will demonstrate the genuine demand for Yeezy. We know a lot of V2s and foam runners will be more desired than V3, but we will see if the demand meets the hype based off the low volume today. Was
That's you know how you hear a
Yeah.
quote and you're like, dude, if that doesn't summarize everything in a nutshell, I don't know what does. And like I said, I can go through and just continue to crunch data and break it down by SKU and give you all of this information. I can use eBay and StockX and
Yeah.
all of these different sales accounts. But I think that quote that you wrote is enough for people to say, hey, maybe we should talk with YoFi
Yeah.
and maybe we can get a grasp on why and what is occurring and what's going on. I really appreciate your time because I know you're busy
No,
and
man. I
it
appreciate
was
you.
it was wild trying to get you set up for this Zoom, but I truly appreciate you taking the time to just stop by and kind of talk with the people who really do follow what we do on Arch. Can you give everyone your socials and
Yeah.
let's wrap this up?
Yeah. So Yofi.ai. My email is Jordan at Yofi.ai, or just I'm always on LinkedIn. So just Jordan Shamir at LinkedIn. Look, like everything we do, if you're a brand, we do free 2 month pilots. We just want to provide value. The one of the things we appreciate about Chris is he writes such authentic quality, and we try to emulate that. We try to use data to show what we're doing and try to tie it into just anything that's culturally relevant. So please connect. Like we're nerds. We love to talk about anything, right? From fake accounts to bots to anything in between, because we even published something around how bots are changing, right? It's not necessarily exclusive releases. We're seeing a lot of arbitrage. Anyways, we won't get into that, but that's a whole different thing. So we love,
Oh, you know what? I hate to cut you off here.
yeah,
So real quick,
yeah.
with AI becoming such a major presence, these
Mhm.
bots are becoming much easier to write.
Oh, yeah.
So how are you guys going to account for AI influence in the creation of bots and diminishing, because it used to be a barrier for people who wanted to get bots. And I hate to take off on a completely different
No,
discussion,
let's go, man. Let's
but
go.
I don't want to.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So bots are going to enable more people to become active in this kind of
1000%.
area of botting, and that concert tickets, that's whatever, right? Clothing, big releases on different things. Is YoFi prepared to engage AI in this process of botting? And then let's wrap it up for
Yeah,
real.
yeah, yeah.
Just real
So
quick, just give me like a minute answer, and then just wrap it up, and we'll probably pick it up again some other time.
yeah, no, we're an AI company, right? So we think in order to fight AI, you need AI. Right. So we're using our own AI to be able to prevent, identify, and look at these because, the thing that might sound, it might, like I said, it's oxymoronic, but like even with randomization, there's a pattern to randomization. Right. So how can we be able to detect a pattern of randomization? Right. Like, hey, how are bots interacting on the site? How are bots creating these accounts? Right. So even though it might be harder to see to the human eye, when you look at it from an aggregated model and being able to stitch it together, we feel fairly confident with being able to detect and identify these individuals. And kind of to your point, one of the things that we're even seeing in the cook groups is instead of individuals botting, what they're doing is cook groups are basically saying who wants a pair and we'll bot for the whole group, right? So they're even consolidating. So it's not just like exclusive releases, but they're also going down into individual where they're like, hey, how do we do retail arbitrage? How do we find price anomalies? How do we find all these different things? So the bots are also morphing, right? Even with the cooldown and exclusive products, right? Yeezy, Dunks, etc. They're moving to other products that they're making money on, right? Like hustlers are going to hustle, right? And so they found a way to make money. And candidly, a lot of these people make a lot of money, right? And or even if it's side gigs, like it pays for a good lifestyle, they're not going to stop. They're evolving just as quickly as the resale market is cooling. So,
And YoFi will be there to protect us.
yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of the tagline, and YoFi is there to protect you. That's like
exactly.
the perfect tagline.
I
Jordan,
love it.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Everyone out there, make sure you connect with Jordan online on yofi.ai and look him up on LinkedIn. Bookmark the podcast. I'm only doing these when I get really good discussion. So there's not going to be a schedule for these podcasts and things like that. So just check in with the station, subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on LinkedIn, and write and ask questions, because this is the kind of content that helps us to become not just wearers of sneakers and just consumers. It helps us to become owners of businesses, to learn about startups, investments, valuations, and how the sneaker industry has more available than just being a buyer. Appreciate you, Jordan. Everybody, check in, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.